Good day, Gambia. Welcome to yet another edition of D's Take. A lot of Gambians are not aware of the fact that petroleum prices have changed at the pump. This means that the price of petroleum per liter has changed, and this has a significant impact on the livelihoods and the economy of the Gambia. But for once, this is no fault of the government, because petroleum as a commodity is internationally traded, and the prices of petroleum are determined internationally at the commodities markets. Therefore, if prices change internationally, it will impact on the importation of petroleum into the Gambia by would-be sellers, and consequently the pump prices will also be affected and should be adjusted accordingly. But in terms of macroeconomics, this is not good. Economists in general want visibilities. Economists in general want predictability. And the volatility in the oil market sends bad signal to the economy. The government of the Gambia is changing prices to reflect the current price and also protect the revenues that they've already programmed in terms of taxation to the budget. Therefore, we need to find better solutions in terms of managing the strategic product and also making sure that it doesn't negatively impact the economy. One thing that the government is doing is they're making sure that their revenues are stable and their expenditures are in line with their revenues, which is a good thing. Therefore, if the price of petroleum changes and government didn't change the price at the pump, taxes collected will go down. So it's no fault of theirs, but here is where they should have come in. You see, one thing with petroleum that we need to understand is it has a ripple effect in the economy. If the price of petroleum changes, consequently, price of most things in the Gambia changes, because it's a strategic input that cuts across all sectors and all economic activities of the country. What can we do? How can we insulate ourselves, our economy, from these petroleum shocks? That's the million-dollar question, and this question needs to be asked. See, government is trying to do two things: growth, macroeconomic stability. These are positive attributes for an economy: economic growth and macro stability. So macro stability has a major function called price stability. If prices are stable, there is visibility. Wherever there is visibility, there is confidence. So erratic changes in terms of pump price, or fuel price at the pump, sends negative signals to the economy. And one thing that it triggers, and it triggers very fast, is inflation. Because price changes, especially upward price changes, is a trigger for inflation. And inflation is a trigger for negative growth. So how can we balance this out? In the past, the government created what you call a price model, an oil pricing model. This oil pricing model created a buffer. The buffer was that it was called a flumara. Flumara meaning fluctuating market rates. Very good concept. And the whole idea behind this concept is to make sure that whenever price changes internationally, it's not reflected locally at the pump. That means there was an equalizer in the system. The equalizer meaning today we order 10 tons of refined product, for instance. The product is costing $400 a ton. Taxes and everything, $520. Break it down into liter, you can sell the liter for $40, for example. If the price changes downwards, we still keep the $40 at the pump, and the difference between the price change and the pump price goes into a sterile account. And this account is accumulated, and whenever there's a price difference that's upward, meaning the price has changed and it has changed upward, we will dip into that sterile account to make up the difference, thereby creating the stabilizer or equalizer that's needed, and that was called the Flumara. So that pricing model really kind of smoothed out the shocks that were inherent in the change of oil price in the market, and we no longer have that. Therefore, what it means is, as and when market conditions change, the pump price will also change. But this is not good. In the absence of the Flumara, the government is left with no option but to be exposed to the market conditions. And that is very bad for our economy. Because, see, economies love to be planned. Economies love to be programmed. And like I said before, economies love visibility. See, visibility is what people use to predict what they want to do and how they're going to do it. So, for instance, today, I am a contractor. I took a project to build a 5-story building. I did my costing based on today's pricing. And sand, basalt, cement, major components of what I'm going to do. Transportation costs will change, and when transportation cost changes, the cost per bag of cement change, the sand coming to my construction site change, likewise the basalt. So everybody is just taken offline. And that's why we want predictability. I therefore urge the government of the Gambia to revisit their pricing model so that the periodic changes in price that we're having in the market can be adjusted. You see, not all economies are sophisticated. First world economies are sophisticated enough that they can make rapid adjustment to price changes. Economies like ours don't make that rapid adjustment, and guess what happens? We have information asymmetries, whereby people who are market participants, i.e. sellers, tend to take consumers for a ride because the information available is not symmetrical. So therefore, what prevails and obtained in first worlds can't prevail and obtain here. In the first world, they do have dynamic pricing, and in dynamic pricing, prices change constantly. You can buy fuel today and come back tomorrow, it's down by 4 cents or it's up by 5 cents. In the Gambia, we can't do that due to the lack of information being available across all market participants. Therefore, the best thing we can do for this economy, the best thing we can do for the Gambian consumer is to make sure that we have price predictability, because we are not sophisticated and our market is not that sophisticated or mature yet. So I am appealing to the Ministry of Finance to revisit their pricing model. I am appealing to the government to find ways and means to make sure that some of the things that we want to fight for, i.e. inflation, will not be triggered upwards if we happen to have an external shock as it relates to oil, and we can't do anything but to transfer the pricing back to the pump, which everyone will pay for, and once everyone pays for it, there's a price adjustment on commodities and services to be provided. Therefore, we are calling for visibility, and visibility can happen if the petroleum pricing is a little bit more static than dynamic. The static nature of our pricing model helps our inflation, and this is what Gambia needs. We need to not only tame inflation, because we know that price stability is a cornerstone to our macro development and growth. So on that note, this was D-Stake, just letting people know that fuel, meaning petroleum, diesel, and petroleum product have changed prices in the Gambia, and like I said, it's going to affect everyone, because the fisherman going out at sea will be buying carburants, and whatever he buys will translate into cost of fish. The one who's transporting the cement, the rice, the cooking oil, everything changes, and once everything changes, that's how it's going to be. So this world is not about all things being equal, because nothing is equal. So we live in a dynamic environment, but we need to find ways to mitigate some of the exposures that we're exposed to, especially market exposures. And that's why we need an oil pricing model that will really ease out and smoothen the shocks that are inherent in the volatile commodities market that we see out there globally. Till I come your way again, this was D-Steak. Thanks a lot.